Hey, Mr. Mashigo.
Hey, Soni.
How are you, Lord?
Good yourself?
I'm good, thank you.
Oh, good man. Are you able to hear me clearly?
I can. I don't know if it's my imagination, like there's a bit of an echo sound.
Probably.
One, two.
Just hold on. Let me just. I'll close. Cool. I think that might have been that. Is it better?
Yeah, it is.
Is it better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Much better. Ujani, Lord.
I'm grand, man.
Nishap, man, nishap. But you would in the camera, but hello to Sunday there as well.
All right. Number teams and what?
You know?
Okay,
Yeah.
grand.
Yeah, I know, sharp.
Okay.
Yeah, anyway, thanks for accepting my invitation and making yourself available.
Sure.
Let's cut the family, so I don't take that for granted.
Yeah.
So thanks for just for this 1 hour. Anyway, thanks to those who are watching us. I'm sitting with Mr. Whiskey, Mashigo. A question that I've been asking myself. So Uriski Kamalako.
Ikamala Mpethu, and why do you know this thing but leave it to through Mary, like where the name follows you.
Yeah.
That actually does follow me, man, and that's the reason why, like, I'm a risk taker.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Wow.
That's my name. Yeah. I've got a couple of names actually. Some of them I hardly ever, use. My name is actually Risky Gordon Lisibana, like as in like further Mashigo.
Oh wow, okay. That's powerful. So say if I don't call you Sir Gordon, at least I know I will land on Lisibana. No man, thanks.
Yeah. That's actually the most powerful one.
Yeah, man. Yeah. No, thank you. So tell us, about yourself. Who is Risky? Where do you hail from? Your maybe some of the memorable experiences you've had as a kid, that you believe would have led you or made a contribution towards the path that you have taken.
Yeah. Okay, it's gonna be short. My name is Risky Mashigo, and I survived COVID. That's it. I'm kidding. Yeah, I'm kidding, right? But okay, so my name is Risky Mashigo. I was born in the late 80s in a hospital called Lerato. And from my parents, who my mom is a baby from Mpumalanga, and my dad is Benda. Yeah, so very, very colorful. And then my first childhood experience was in Mpumalanga, in a small town called Tlabekisa. I think most people would be familiar with it. Based on the 3 roundabouts, most people go through for experiences there in the 3 roundabouts and your portals and so forth. It's the same town right there on. That's basically where I grew up with my grandmother. Obviously, my mom was working and my dad was working in Joburg as well. And I grew up with my grandma, Kukwanamrok. And that's literally the person that, for me, has played a bigger role in terms of the early stages of my life, as a kid. She was a very strong very feisty woman. She ran a business. I've never seen her work. She ran a business, and she was running a business in the alcohol industry. So she was actually manufacturing the alcohol, which is the brewing, and actually selling. It was called Spider. I think that's what you call gin now, right?
Wow.
Yeah. She actually manufactured it at the backyard and sold it in the same yard as well. So basically, my childhood was seeing her, serving customers in and out, and just running business. I grew up seeing that. And I think that's, for me, that was, an experience that probably because I was young, I didn't really see what it was doing in my psyche, but I really never saw my grandmother waking up to go and work. I've always seen her, waking up, actually just, get her orders ready, get things done, and making sure that she receives the clients as they in. And so that was the first experience from a young age. That was the first experience. And obviously I've had to assist a little bit, with, when there's customers and so forth. And that was probably maybe a first experience of serving, because business is about serving, so that was my first experience serving, and then I did for a couple of years with her. I eventually moved, which I feel like it was a premature move. If I were to ask for more, I would have asked for a longer stay with her, because I still think that there was just still a lot more to learn. I moved, but because I was a kid, I was happy to move because I thought I was going to stay closer to my mom. We moved, and instead of being in Joburg, they actually shifted me to a place in Northwest called Majagani, small town in Northwest called Majagani. This is a place where, for me, I learned about the importance of community and and just independence. Because when I went there, I went with a family. But after family politics, I ended up staying with one of the guys in the area. The family had borrowed him to my mother so that he can be my brother and look after me. And so that was a sense of community from that view. But also I experienced how it's like, to just be within a community that really doesn't care about who you are, but they just want to build, that loving environment for you. So I learned a bit about community, and I learned a bit about independence, because we obviously had to receive money month and make sure that money takes you the whole month, and we were still young, very, very young. I think that I was still about 11, I think, 9, 10, 11, somewhere there. And then that was a short stay though. I think a year or two. I think just 2. And then from then on, I moved, with my mom, Kurikichini, in 4 ways. And that was, I've never felt that we were poor, right? Never. My mom had always taken care of everything. My dad had always taken care of everything. My dad was actually one of the senior managers in one of the floral firms in Kyalami. He was actually one of the senior managers. And my mom, all her life, has been a maid, which is a helper. But I've never felt poor, right? But when I stayed in 4 ways in the back room with her, that's when I felt that we were actually poor. And that's not because of the lack of affordability, but it was now the exposure. What staying there exposed me, I then got to see that there's there's more to the life that I know and I'm aware of. There's more, and from then on, I think this is the same era where, we played in the park. I'm not sure if you know the skateboard park. This is the same skateboard park. I think we played in the same park with your likes of Dales, Bongani Fasi. That was the same. We literally played in the same place. You can imagine, the different life, you then get to see that, damn, I actually am a little bit poor. And then that for me was an eye opener. It really did expose me to a lot, to be able to see that there's more to life. And I think it's kind of one of those things that spiked a need to know and a need to do more and a need to get more from a younger age, to say there is a lot to achieve. And the only way that you can be able to achieve it is by going after, you know, whatever it is that you can to be able to get there. I saw it then, because we then also got to experience their parents when they fetched them and so forth. I mean, you know. so that was an exposure. But I think another thing that it did is it fueled the fire in me, right? So from then I always wanted to come back to Fourways. It was a dream that I stayed in the back room, but I always said I want to come back here, but owning, you know, as an owner, you know, and I left a couple of years and went to stay in Diepsloot, which I think you know Diepsloot. I went and stayed in Diepsloot. That's where I finished my matric in a school called Itirele.
Okay.
AKA Yizo. If you remember the story, Yizo.
Yes.
Do you remember that story, Yizo? Yeah. So that's the nickname we gave the school. So you can imagine how it was. Another few lessons to learn there, you know, another few lessons to learn, you know, learned quite a lot. And then, I finished my matric whilst I was in Diepsloot. I started the hustle. I went to school after matric whilst I was in Diepsloot. My first hustle started when I was there as well. So basically that's just me as from a young age to being a family man in business, you know, and managing things that are in the space of financial services, IT, and telecommunications.
Nice. Before we get into that, it's just you're a good storyteller, by the way. So if you've ever thought of documenting, so you must find a way to document. So I think key things which I wrote down that you touched on: serving, community, and exposure. I know there's a lot more that you mentioned. You know, and I'm piggybacking on these, or just picking on these, because I think sometimes we want why business thinking which it's all about being a boss, or a self-made somebody, that kind of mentality, you know. But when we land, from the flip side, or from another angle, which is talking about other things, but you being a self-made, I haven't heard you say you're a self-made somebody. So I'm just hearing that there's all these different, people, experiences, and so forth. That's really powerful. If I may share something on the stories, when you're a kid growing up and not knowing which to pay what's the scenario. When my parents bought their first house, which is the only house that we've ever bought, actually. We were moving from Uklala Emarumini, type scenario. Now I've got my own bedroom for the first time ever. What I didn't know is that for the first maybe 3-4 months, it bought to the point that it was difficult to put food on the table. But I had a job. Become a veg for one of the neighbors. For me, I was just hanging out with my new friends after school. We just pull around the garage out while we sell a veg. And as payment, this guy would say, pick a veg, one of each, 2 of each to take home. He would never give us money. And it turns out these vegetables, they were seasons are cool. For me, it was just having fun, but also not knowing the situation, how dire and severe it was. That's really powerful, So I think I'm curious to know. You say you started your first hustle. What was the hustle?
Yeah, so it's actually right after high school, and at that time I was still studying. When I started my first one, I was still studying, and so my first one was I actually got into a partnership with a certain lady, and then I said, I think what we need to do is to start an informal business, and go back to high schools and propose that they allow us to run their tuck shops. Because I had been in school, so I knew exactly what kind of money is there, So I was already thinking like an entrepreneur, so I already knew what kind of money is there. And then, we came up with a proposal, and I've always been good at being able to eye an opportunity, but also being able to engage something together. And then I did in the background, I did that all by myself. But I knew I needed a partner because he's there, wasn't there. So then we went and proposed to my previous school, and we proposed. There was, they had created a board, a little bit of a board, which is the chairperson of the school, principals and so forth, and a couple of teachers. We nailed it, and they bought into it, and they said, what, great. We had someone running the tuck shop that we were not happy with. We like what we see. We like the menus that you put together. We like how you think you can run it. Let's do it, and this will obviously start building up the story as to why my businesses are always surrounded around CSR. It's because even when I did the proposal, I said, the reason why you should give it to us is because the school will get to benefit in terms of funding and sponsorship from us. If you're going for sports, whatever, we will then sponsor with a bit of food for the kids who are playing. We'll then sponsor, with drinks and so forth. When there is sports day that is happening outside of the school and there's a trips and so forth for sports specifically, we will sponsor. So basically, that's where the crux of the proposal came from giving first before you can receive. And I've always run my businesses that way. I've always done everything. I've always, even my networking, I've always done it that way. Give first, and then you can be able to receive. I've always done it that way. And that was my first hustle, man. It did well. I think we were ranking it about 4K a day on a 5-day. So 4K a day, that's what we were ranking. And that was in 2009.
Wow.
Yeah, so we were doing quite well, yeah. But anyway, it didn't end well. I was robbed by my business partner, and they cheated me out of the business, so I had to let it go.
Excellent. So that was the first tough lesson that you got. Yeah. I'm a school fees, but
I didn't pay school fees, and I paid that. I paid.
Yeah.
I paid, so, and then I paid a lot more after.
Yeah. So then from school, sorry, my guy is upset.
No problem.
Take us to after scale. It's in Chile. Yeah, jealous. So I'm following his way, but so your journey then from this scale, I know you have a bit of a corporate or 8-to-5 background. Just take us through the journey, scale. What happens. You were shy detour, maybe you went to study something, and then how did you get the space that you ended up before leaving corporate for business?
Yeah. So by education, I am a project manager, and then later on got a certificate for business administration management, and that was with a partnership between Edufin and Tyco International, which is a company that I ended up working for. So I after the few, I think I had done two, very small businesses. The first one was the one that I just narrated you, and then the second one was another business that I did. That was us trying to create an agency where we would supply your premium restaurants and hotels with waiters and barmen. I did that good. Barmen as well myself. We did that good. Made a bit of a killing as well, but failed obviously from a management point of view. Still poor. We still didn't know how to manage money or even manage stuff. It failed eventually, but it did well for a couple of months. And then after that, that's when I decided that, man, maybe this business thing is not gonna work, and then I was like, you know what? Hey, where's my CV? I prepared my CV, and I went job hunting. And then I went for an interview and got a job at a company called ADT. I think it was Tyco International at that time. And I got a job there as a retentions officer. It was supposed to be a part-time job because someone was in maternity. But hey, man, I showed up and did what I needed to do. And then when the contract finished in 6 months, they said, you know what, we've got something else. We're opening a call center that is going to do 1, 2, 3. We need a retentions officer come through. And that was the first time I started experiencing a bit of customer service, right? And then obviously also finance, because the retentions was more about finance, getting the clients that are already in bad debt and bringing them back into the company. And obviously then promising them sweets and giving them, a little bit of hope that the service will be better again, because some of them would stop making payment just because the service is crap, and things like that. So retentions, that's where I learned about customer services, the first stint of customer services. I did that for, I think, a year or two. And then from then on, I think, actually on the third year, I started applying outside of the department. I didn't get anything. And then eventually I got appointed as a supervisor in the contact center. That was now my first stint of management. And then I worked as a contact center manager. I was running a team of 16 agents. With a collective of 60 agents under our belt. And that's where I learned, people's management. And then that's where you obviously then start having to learn about people, to be able to have emotional intelligence, to be able to manage, to be able to lead, and to be able to get the best out of people, be inspirational and so forth. That's where I started learning pieces of that. I did that for, I think, 3 years or so, managing the team. And then eventually I was headed by the group company because they had bought into the company, they had bought the company, and I was headhunted to go and be a BDM, business development manager for the CIT business, your cash in transit. And so I ran CIT. I did BDM for CIT for National, which is all over SA. And I did that for, I think, a year and a couple of months. That's where my experience in corporate ended. After that, I ended on a high, man. But I always know that, a good dancer knows when to leave the floor. And for me, that was it. I had done enough. I had done enough. I had achieved what I wanted to achieve in corporate, and and that's when I called it quits.
Called it quits, as in now I'm moving into the business space, going back. That is.
Yeah, but just to touch on that, before I moved fully, right? I had already started a business with my partner. I had already started a business, which we bootstrapped with my salary, and that is the one that you see on my tag. It would say up in the IT space. IT space. That's the business I started when I was still working. It's called JK Technologies. That's the one where I was still working. So I bootstrapped it with my salary. and then it started running, and I could see that okay, it's doing, it can run a little bit of a marathon, and that's when I started signing off from the dance floor on the other side to say, you know what, I think it's time that I give it my full attention, and let's see how it goes.
Nice. And what was the case that the phone call?
What was?
What does the JK
I didn't hear.
stand for?
It's Junior and Kyle.
Sorry?
Junior and Kyle. That's my.
Oh, okay, nice. So okay, that's really inspiring, man. It sounds like you had a plan, in terms of Unespani and all that. You had already started something, and you knew when it was a good time for you to make that move. From your experience and living in this space, say business. If there's someone that's listening and watching us, they've got an 8 to 5, they've got a business somewhere around on the side, like, hey, should I do it or not? What kind of advice? I know that there's no blueprint that works for everyone, because our circumstances are not the same. But in terms of taking that move, what would you say?
So my and obviously, because I like speaking positives into life, right? And sometimes it's unrealistic. I have to say that sometimes it's unrealistic. I know sometimes we always say, just do it right away. But we then obviously, because it's a short status, you can't explain the bit of doing it. It's not about just waking up and just you leave your job. So I would always say, because I understand that business is tough, it kicks butt left, right, and center. So I would always say, if you're starting whilst you're working, the first thing that you need to do, right, is to guard the job that you have. And by guarding it is by checking your contract, your employment contract. What does it say about having a side hustle? What does it say about industries? Can you cross industries? Can you go? Look at that first. And that is you respecting your job. And you look at that, you make so that whatever you start does not disturb what's already there. You've got a job. It's not like the job is not there and then you have to protect the business. No, the business doesn't need your protection. You protect your job first, right? You look after your job. You make sure that you've done right. You tick the dots, in terms of knowing that your contract is right. You are in a better place. You cannot be sued, or even lose your job prematurely, right? So you do that first. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is to then be patient and study the business that you are going into. Remember, there's no rush. You are working, you've got a salary, you're comfortable. Although there is something that is ticking in your ear that tells you that you need to be doing something. And that's the reason why you go and start a side hustle. You are not in a hurry. You're not like someone who's hungry and needs to find a hustle quickly. You are working, so you need to look at something that you want to work with. So you relax. You study the business, you go into that business, and as soon as it starts operating, right? So obviously it means you're doing it after hours and weekends and so forth. What you then do is you start looking at the business's balance sheet, operations, income versus expenses and so forth. You start looking at that. You look at that almost every single day. That is your ticking guideline. Once that starts changing and starts showing you that there's a surplus, right? Then you know that this business can start paying other things besides for operations. Then you start monitoring that, right? You monitor exactly how much is the surplus. You start comparing it to what you earn, right? Start comparing it to what you earn at work, and then you start increasing that surplus up until it can be able to pay you the salary, right? And I always say that once you've done that, you see that, okay, this can pay me a salary. You don't pay yourself the salary yet. You continue working, right? And then once you continue working, you then plan a 6-month, what we call a security. say 6 months security, you take the salary that you already saw that you can draw, and you put it into an account that is going to be chilling. That is your 6 month surplus, right? You make sure that you've got a 6 month security, you put it aside, and then once you've done that, then you can then prepare your company nicely and let them know that you will be exiting. You don't have to exit, you know, and fighting and acting like you're tough just because you've got a business now. You exit very nicely, so that in the future you can be able to do business with them. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that. When I exited Fidelity, part of the businesses that I had done to get to here was I once owned a club. And in a club, you need a company that's going to collect money. I actually got a machine to collect, the money for collecting the money, the machine for collecting the cash, so that when the CIT guys come and collect, I got the machine for free. I mean, that machine is expensive. Where did I get it? From where I was working. You know what I mean? Because I didn't mess up. You know, So I left, you know, in a good space, in a good light, and but also had prepared on the other side. You know, the operations were already running. I just needed to come in and take over from an operational management point of view. But they were already running. The business was running. It had about 2 employees already. You know, so it was already running. So I moved into a moving train already. And then all we could do was to now step further, because now you've got free time. You are able to attend those meetings, those conferences, and you are able to sell a bit more. And obviously have enough time to strategize a little bit more. So yeah, so for me, I would then say plan properly, so that even if it goes bad, because it does go bad, and it did, but at least I was a little bit prepared.
Nice. No, that is a great point, and I think you've touched on some stuff I've never, you know, normally people will share their tips, but I've never heard anyone mentioning the checking in company policies or the contract, which is weird, because if you think about it, you know, a lot of companies have this policy, especially the well-established companies. Any IP you create while you work for them could potentially be owned by them. Yeah, understand? And that's how a lot of people, you work at a company, maybe let's say it's I don't know, you're a scientist, a chemist, whatever it is. In your spare time would be mixing up concoctions in your garage and all that, using the same knowledge or the know-how that you use, you know, at your job. And now you want to professionalize this thing, and then this guy is what you know, then you find yourself that in a legal battle that you can't afford to sustain. Those are really great points. Yeah, man. So, so you, in terms of right, you then also found that, and maybe take us through a timeline. In Pilo, which is an insurance company or funeral policy, I don't know what to call it. It's a brokerage within the funeral insurance space, as well as StayOn Telecoms. So take us through, you know, moving pieces and how you split
how the pieces move. So obviously, in between those pieces, there's been storms, there's been rains, and there's been winds, you know, in between those pieces moving. But as soon as I moved from corporate and went into business, we got in and you know, heels on the ground, and we started running. And we ran, and during the running, I started realizing that, look, as much as the business is doing great, cash flow does become an issue. And then I started doing a little bit of research as to what do I want to do? What is a cash business that I can do that generates cash and so forth? So literally every time when I've started a business would have been for 2 reasons, right? it would have been either I feel that the current business needs it, or it's a business that I look at and I wish that I could have it, or I could be able to be a client of it, or that I think it's a need, a niche. So it's been two reasons for me every time. It's either because the current one needs it, or because it's just a business that I feel like, I wish there was a business like this here, right? So the first thing that I did two things. I looked at, does the business need something else? The one that we were running, which was the JK Technologies, which obviously was in the business of supplying businesses, corporates, and government with IT, consumables. You're looking at your laptops, desktops, to printers, everything. So that's literally we did that. We worked with NGOs and so forth. So we really had like a good client base, but the cash flow was always an issue, right? Whenever you get an order, a client would pay after 30 days, and you needed to make sure that you've got the money to be able to get that order. And if you get an order for 500, where are you going to get 500,000, to be able to fulfill that? And your lights, the People's Fund were not there at that time, they were not there to be able to fund those POs and so forth. So you then had to and thank God, for me, I've always had a very supportive family and friends as well. So I mean, there's a lot of guys that I knocked on their doors to say, hey, Chief, from your salary, because I mean, amongst my friends, I literally was the first person to go into business, even with my family. So I've always knocked at their doors because I know they will, to say, hey, with your salary, we need to make sure that we can deliver, so they've really played a bigger role. And that's the reason why I always told you that I'm not self-made. I can never claim that, because the little things that they probably don't even think that they matter, but they matter a lot, so thank God for that. And yeah, so the first move that I made, which was later on proven to be a bad move, was I think it was 2 years later, we tried to open a club. It was called Tycoon Nightclub. It was in Fourways.
Okay.
I was young. Even if you go and Google and you find things there, on the pages, just understand that I was young. Okay. It was a premium day clubbing. So it was something new. It was day clubbing. So I see now it's popular. People are now doing day clubbing, where it's a club but it operates during the day. That they are now doing it now. I see it's popular. We did it back then.
Yes.
We did it back then, and it was it was doing quite great. We made good money, and hence, I mean, I said that I had to get the CIT machines and so forth for them to connect and stuff. It did well, but it eventually failed due to a few politics in terms of residences, noise issues, and a landlord. A lot of things happened along the way. We made good money, but we ended up losing a lot of money. That was my first loss, where I lost about 500K worth of capital. So school fees paid again. School fees paid again there. And then, but you know what? I licked the wounds and moved on fast. And then, we then, continued with our business working. And then I knew that I had to be a little bit more meticulous and plan a little bit better in terms of if I want to go into other businesses. You see, for me, I know a lot of business people always say, you need to be the master of one, right? And meaning they always say business that you run perfectly and master that. I'll tell you the difference between me and other people, and I respect them because it's always great to master one thing and get it right. I respect them, but what I've understood, and I learned that very early, was that I'm not a creative. I'm not an inventor. I do not have a special talent in terms of I can create this or whatever. I learned that very early. So what I know about me is that I operate. I'm an operator. I know how to operate, I know how to build systems, and I know how to move something from here to a business. That's what I'm talented in. I know how to manage. You know, that's what I know. And then because of that, I knew that for me, my success would come from different businesses, different industries, because working in corporate made me understand that to be a CEO of a financial service business doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a qualified financial services, whatever. I learned that daily. I learned that to work, to lead or to be a CEO in a security company, you don't have to have a security background. One of my favorite CEO, Stuart Clarkson from ADT, never did security and never worked in the security industry. But that was one of the best CEOs I've ever seen. You know, learned quite a lot from him. But that's when I knew that that's not how it works. You actually, if you're an operator, if you're a manager, if you're a leader, if you can build systems, then you can be able to enter into any sector and do well or fail. It doesn't really matter in any case, but you can do it. And from then on, I knew that for me, I don't have to have one business and concentrate on it. I don't have to do that. I knew that from early. So even when the second one failed, I still knew that I wanted to open more. It didn't deter me from the plan. I still knew. But now what I learned was now I have to be a bit more. I have to actually, study where I'm going and then probably maybe put some measures in place to just make sure that I don't fall for the same trap again. And then I think in 2020, I actually started thinking about it in 2019. An idea came into my mind. And, I always say this and my partner always laughs, or everybody else that I tell about these things, they always laugh. And it has happened the same way all the time. I always say, I've got a business, and it sounds weird. So every time when I come up with an idea, it comes to me either when I'm sleeping, and when it comes out with the logo, how it's supposed to look like, and it comes out with the colors. So by the time I launched, it had already played in my head a lot of times. So I started, having those visions about going into the financial services. And then I immediately then went back and said, okay, but why would this start pestering me? What's the issue? And then I looked at it and I was like, okay, so what are my passions? What is 1, 2, 3? And then I went back to my childhood, which is the community learning. And then I learned from that community that, they always found a way to be able to work with each other, to be able to lend a hand to each other. But I always knew that when there's funerals, there was problems, money problems, issues of 1, 2, 3. And that's the reason why I said this is a great one. I'm gonna go into it and I'm gonna see if I can do it. You know what I mean? And then 2020, I did my research throughout, and in 2020 April I launched. And I can tell you this, Zuzi, I really, it was a huge learning curve for me. I had never, worked in that industry before. And a lot of lessons came with it. A lot of smack down came with it from the compliance point of view. I got dragged hard. Yeah, I learned quite a lot, because I went into it from a business point of view, knowing the numbers, knowing the operations and whatever, but I never understood how hardcore the compliance side of it was. And I went in there, made a lot of money, and I got smacked hard, got smacked very, very hard. So I think because we started a little bit pre-COVID, we could see, the numbers were looking great. We were making quite a lot of money. Went into COVID, saw a bit of flames, came out of COVID with a very ailing company. It closed up, and we had to kind of resuscitate it, rebuild, and so forth. But for me, with regards to Impilo, It's a juristic rep within the brokerage in funeral policies. We only deal with funeral policies, nothing else. And we deal with funeral policies from your burial schemes to individual funeral policies to family, and also traditional family, which is your 1+, which those are the ones that accommodate your aunts, the rest of the family. You know, your black family kind of structure. So we've really designed great products. I think you can check them out on the website. So that was the second one. Huge lessons, and a whole lot of success from there. My nomination for the UK CEO magazine came because of that one. Wow. So it was really a very, very, very good business to go into. We've got our head office is in Fourways, and we have a branch in Brett. Going back to Brett, it's in Majagani. So, and I went back to give back that side as well again, because I knew the need there as well. And that's the reason why the first branch that I thought of after establishing the head office was in Brett, because I understood the community, even if you would say I'm not from there, but because I stayed there for a year or two, I understand, the community better. And that's the reason why I had to take it back there. So that's it. And then, we trickled down to 2022 this year, and both businesses were operating. We've initially taken the stage to be just the step to separate their offices, so that they operate from different offices, because we've always wanted to be able to see when there's a problem, because if you want in one building, sometimes you don't see. This one carries the other one, and you don't really see when there's a problem. We took up that step, separate them, and then I felt that I had done enough for them. The only thing that could happen was for me to allow them to grow, both JK and Impilo. I had done enough for them. I could just allow them, and that was I knew that the drive for whether they can grow or not grow was not in my ability anymore. For me, it was just to manage, more in the ability of whether the market really wants it or not. You get what I mean? And from then on, I started getting bored. By the way, I get bored fast, right? I started getting bored, and I got frustrated. This is a funny story. So I as you know, in the area that I live in, I won't mention it. But I think when I told you about the childhood story, you would get the idea of where I stay. Obviously use fiber, and I've got a service provider. When I moved into my house, and the service is great. Connectivity, everything is great, and I started struggling with every time when there's an accounts issue, I could not get hold of anybody, like in terms of the credit controller. And I never understood the fact that when I call in, they put me through to credit control, and I find one credit controller. They would say, but this account does not belong to me. I'm not the one managing the account. You have to find your credit controller. So put me through to the credit controller, and they would never answer, or the phone would be cut. Frustrating. Every time I would have that, and I could never get hold of anyone. When there's a technical issue, same thing. And, the frustration, and I was like, this is a brilliant business, right? The connectivity is good, but the customer service, crap, the behind the scenes. And I was like, I think I need to actually, take advantage of this situation. And I went online, right? And then I searched complaints when it comes to, ISPs. And I realized that most of them, the complaint is about the after sale, right? What happens after you get the sale? It's never really about the connectivity, because you really have a lot of options about connectivity. You can change up to LTE, to fiber, to whatever. If it's bad, it's bad. Even if you change from me to another one, you're gonna get the same service, it's going to be bad. It's not the ISP. It's just what you have in the area that you're in. That's what we probably don't know as clients, right? It's not the ISP. It's the area that you're in and the service that you chose. It might not be good for that area. That's the reason why. And then obviously there's a lot of things like, is in your and stuff that happen, and the cutting of cables and stealing of cables. That's external stuff. But for me, I was frustrated by the customer service side of it, and I said, I'm going to go into it myself. I'm going to start a business that I wished was there. And so and then from there, I did my research, spoke to ICASA, checked the licensing and stuff like that. And I said, okay, who do I need to partner with? I went and engaged, started partnering with them. And then I realized that, okay, this is viable. I did a bit of my research, realized that it's viable. And I said, you know what, let's get it going. I spoke to a gentleman by the name of Kumgani, and I said, dude, I need you to start designing 1, 2, 3. We got it going, designed it. I had already registered the business. And in June, I said, let's launch. And we launched. I don't like waiting too long. If it's ready, we go, So we launched in June, and by end of I think by end of August, we had about 350 plus homes and businesses on board already. So it was really a good 2 months and a half. And all of it has been online. Right? All of it has been online. We don't have physical salespeople on it. So everything has been online. And that's what we've been doing. Even now we do online. We work with referrals and online sales. That's about it. And that's all we've been doing. But I knew, when I went into it, that I don't want to create something that is not there. Like I said, I'm not an investor. I knew that I don't want to create something that is not there. I'm going to go and give people exactly what is there. But the difference is how I'm going to package it. The difference is the background. The difference is the after sale. The difference is the back office. The difference is in the soft touches, right? And then I made sure that I put that in place correctly, so that I know that whatever it is that was pestering me on the other side, I'm gonna get it right on my side. And that's all we've been really concentrating on. So StayOn is a telecommunications company launched in June. We provide fiber, LTE. We provide webing. We also sell licenses in terms of Microsoft licensing for business, and we also then provide plug-and-play load shedding systems. As you know, there's a lot of load shedding happening. We sourced really great products to be able to help businesses that are running from home or from small offices to be able to stay on during load shedding. That's about it. I think that's managing 3 businesses. And split is because I've really established really great teams. I don't physically have to be there all the time now. So I'm able to do that, and most of them are practically running online. We don't really. It's only physical sales reps. But I really only get involved from a structural point of view, in terms of structures, in terms of strategic, and in terms of making sure that the people that are got to work with me from a leadership point of view are doing what they need to do. So that's how I split it. But with StayOn, I'm a little bit more hands-on because it's still a baby. A little bit more hands-on in making sure that everything is running as smooth as possible. But so far so good.
That's really powerful. I like the way this are connecting. I interviewed Ukumkani on one of the shows, but one of the sessions here a while ago. So I just want to show about let me see. I hope it comes out the way. So this is what we are talking about. Can you see that? So this is
it looks great.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically, if you've got a requirement or a need for a internet connection, and I had the benefit of being at the receiving end, of your customer service, so when you talk to that, it's something that I can vouch for, in terms of the feedback, and the personalized approach. It's almost like this person where I was type thing, So and not in a familiar way, like being unprofessional or whatever. So it's something that I can vouch for in terms of what you're talking about. And I think back to the earlier point I made, when I said you're a good storyteller, also I think there's a lot of wisdom in you and a lot of things that it would really be, a sad day. Ukuthi sihlale ngakuwe. There needs to be a way. Either ushaye some kind of a master class or whatever. Because you're touching on a very key point that I've seen big companies failing and the ball. Like big companies, you understand that you get the resources, the processes, and all of that stuff, but dropping the ball in as far as customer service is concerned, you know. Yeah, kudos to you, Nota, for your work. Also, maybe if I may add,
Thanks, man.
so we recently partnered with the StayOn. This is us, BrownSense. You might have seen me or team members posting this quick group on BrownSense. So this is the brain behind the StayOn Telecoms, and this is just our way of saying how do we help one another to stay productive, during these challenging times, because Baba Chaya from like me yesterday, it was even today from 4 p.m. to 6:30. What that means for me is that sometime during the day I need to stop what I'm doing, and if it means I need to cook, for example, cook dinner, I better be in front of the stove from 2 p.m. putting stuff to chopping onion, and so forth, away from being productive and doing the actual work, so that come 4 p.m. The food is done. Come 6:30, the process of warming up, we eat, everyone is happy. Lastly, let me just share this link. So this is for Abantu, that I'll share two links. So this is your we said they're wrong, but it's fine. So this is the insurance. Sorry, the link to Impilo. One of the saddest things that I've seen within space was someone losing a loved one, and he's a freelancer, so that's not a stable, predictable income. And when the death happened, they had to prolong the stay yomzimba mortuary. I don't remember what was the reason. I think it's when there was a strike. I think there was a strike, government mortuaries, but that increased the amount of costs and all of those things. So then you've got a stress of how do I raise money to bury my loved one, but also I must grieve at the same time. So these things do happen. And then the second link I'm sharing on the screen, guys. And I need to hire a editor. We back in the back end. So this link is those portable power devices. I will share it in the comments as well. Nota, what is, and maybe this is not a question, or definitely StayOn is not the last thing. Is there something in the horizon already that you're busy cooking? That we'll be seeing pretty soon. That will be announcing.
So definitely, StayOn won't be the last. That's for sure. It won't be the last. But for the rest of this year, I think, and next year, it's just going to be about polishing and getting it as well as possible, as good as possible, making sure that we strike the numbers. Because I mean, for me, the goal right now is as we create solutions. Because for example, I mean the load shedding thing, plug and play was more of a solution. I saw that there's a solution needed, and then I went and sourced and said, okay, let's do it this way. So as we create solutions along the way, the main goal is to also get the connectivity side of it to grow. My goal is to be able to get it to a point where it can be able to compete with the big giants. And it's a big dream, I know, it's very huge. And that's the reason I've started the program where we actually reward the public for if they recommend us, or if they refer a client through to us. We literally pay them 100 Rand for each sale that we sell. But because the end goal here is for us to dominate the market eventually. We want to build, to get the background of it right in terms of the service, the whatever, and that's what we're working on. Once we get that right, we need to be dominating the numbers, because unfortunately the connectivity business is about numbers. If you've got the numbers, then you've got the negotiation power. You've got the ability to be able to start building proper systems, and also to be able to start changing the status quo in terms of prices, in terms of direction that telecoms need to be taking. You can't really have an effect if you don't have a bigger stake in the market. And the goal is to just have a bigger stake. And I do believe that I can get the bigger stake, because the bigger stake is actually handled or dominated by my people. So I need them to be able to make up the numbers so that we can be able to then have a say in the industry, to then have a say in terms of what is the price mark that we should be putting for connectivity. We can't have a say if we don't have control. We need to get the control so that we can be able to say in terms of, why is that expensive? How should we get it lower? Why is, things like that. I mean, we cry about it all the time that, we need to get data low. We can't if we don't have the numbers to be able to negotiate and change the status quo. The only way we can do that is to get the numbers. So I would obviously, just get the people to say, you know what, look, if you can try us out, we're really good, really good. Try us out, and then let's see how it goes. But let's get the numbers behind StayOn so that it can really dominate the market, and we can then start driving proper changes in terms of making sure that data is really affordable, accessible, Wi-Fi and internet accessible to everybody, even the most poorest can be able to have access to Wi-Fi, because obviously that's where it is, and we need to get it as close to the people as possible. And the only way we can do that is through numbers. So we need more numbers. So people need to be getting in there to give us those numbers, right?
For sure.
But yeah, question. I'm rambling there. What's next is getting those numbers going and building this business, getting it to a point where we can once again hire proper leaders to come and lead it, so that I can move on again. And the leaders should be the people that are supporting it now. They need to start supporting it so that the jobs can open up, and basically that's how I want to be able to run a business. Get it going, get the right people to manage it, and move on. That's how I want to do it. And as we speak, after this, there's a lot coming. There's an industry that I need to go back to eventually. It will take a couple of years, and that is the security industry. I need to go back into. I've mastered it. I know every back end of it. Obviously, I need to go back and play in that industry again. Not as an employee, but obviously as a business owner. I will eventually go into it. It will take probably a couple of years, but the plans are already there. It's just about timing. the timing will get there. But yeah, that would be my next move. But for now, it's getting on to be a dominating ISP.
Nice. We've got a question over here.
Yeah.
And Risky Mashigo telling us about the business where he ran a laundromat and a pharmaceutical company at the same time. So I don't know what, but it sounds like insider information.
Yeah. I think that's obviously one of the jokes that I like telling when I explain how hectic business can get. It's an insider joke, but it's more. I was explaining about how when I was playing in the club business, and I was saying that for you to stay in the business, you need to have a laundromat in the backyard of the business, the club. You need a laundromat at the backyard, and I was jokingly saying that a lot of businesses in that sector need their hand in a little bit of a dirty cookie jar to be able to succeed and sustain it. It's not sustainable when you're doing as soon as possible. That's basically an inside joke that I was making to say when you're running that business, you need to have a laundromat at the back. It's not definitely necessarily about the.
Okay, no, that's great, Joe. I'm really inspired. That there's no end to this. I think one thing that we do to each other, or we fall in a trap, is that the fear of being seen with how risky using up insurance. Now it's an ISP. Now you're talking about security, and like when I leave some for some of us that and I'm saying it's a sad way of thinking and looking at things because the question is why really need more risk is doing the stuff that you are doing, trailblazing and all that. Because, I will tell you one thing. This story just comes to my mind now. I was in high school, and the high school I went to, on a Wednesday, they used to invite different people to come and like it was a career session type thing. So there'll be a lawyer one Wednesday and someone from the media and so forth. One day, I think Peter, if you remember Peter Matlari, he had just, I don't know what his position was, whether it was within the prime media itself, but he was in charge of his own. So he was telling us about what he does and so forth. I can't tell you what he said, in terms of, that's something that stuck to my mind, that inspired me. But he did something that I witnessed. And I was like, I want the confidence. And so the lady who was organizing these sessions was a white lady who taught French, and the attitude. Karen, to put it in a mild way.
Yeah.
And she was talking in a certain way, and this guy put her off in front of us. But as I felt it, but it was the soft tone, the voice shaking it down, but also the body language and the look in his eyes. And I was like, yo.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. That's just an example, but always someone, that's watching, whether online, whether in your family and so forth, and they need to see these things, because the other thing that I'm obsessed about is our kids need to have about Uncle Risky that I can, if in our city I've got a business idea, there needs to be that network, where you can say, maybe you should speak to auntie so and so, which currently a lot of us don't have in our community, and that's what we should aspire for. I think as far as this conversation of it's just to reference the Facebook group that you run, because I just touched on the issue of family or inspiring kids and so forth. Tell us about the Black Dads Are Cool Dads. That's the name of the Facebook group. What inspired that? What are you seeking to achieve through Black Dads? Black Dads Are Cool Dads. Yeah.
So basically it's just the group is mainly for black dads, as clear as the name is, but it's more to foster the mindset behind the issue that black dads are obviously deadbeats. The term, I really hate that term. And that's because the media or social media or the community, the public has actually shown more of the bad side of people who don't show up. And my understanding is that not showing up happens on both sides. It's just that sometimes it is a bit more extreme on the other side, or the men are more quiet when they are the ones in the receiving end. The other party is not quiet. And this is not to say there is no problem. There is a problem, but I just think that we inject a lot more energy into it to a point where we don't come up with solutions. And for us, Black Dads Are Cool Dads was more of a solution, but it was also to drive the narrative that as a dad, you need to be able to stand up and you need to be able to take your position seriously. You need to be able to be active and be present as a dad to your kids, and also be involved. Whether you are staying with the mom or you guys are not together anymore, we're just fostering a culture of dads stepping up, taking up that primary parenting. We don't have to allow the females to be the only ones that become primary parents. If you've got the opportunity to do it, do it. So that's basically the plan behind it. It started off as something simple. I've always been a passionate father, but it started simple. I wanted to do an event for dads and their kids, right? And on those comments, one of the people who commented was Buzwe Sosa, Mabuza, and when he commented, we sort of we've always been Facebook friends, but we've never really gotten to meet each other outside of Facebook. And from that was the first time we actually had an exchange, and we decided, I said, what, I'm thinking maybe let's take it just a little bit further and open a group like this. And we started engaging around how it should be alike, and I opened it, and look, man, it was shocking. The numbers were shocking, and because I actually, a part of me also believed in the narrative that dads are really not that active. But it shocked me, and I realized that there's a lot of dads who are actually active. There's a lot of dads who are fighting to be active, who are denied access, who are fighting for that access, and there's just a lot of really, really cool Black dads who are doing great out there, and we just need to foster that community and make sure that even the young dads who are coming in know exactly what's the standard. They don't need to drop the ball because we're already doing it. So, and then also, another thing is we then created that platform to be a way for dads to express themselves, to be able to communicate, to be able to use it as a safe space as well, to be able to tell their challenges, things that they wouldn't be able to tell anybody else, but they can be able to tell to other dads as well who would not be judgmental and so forth. So we've really done quite a lot in terms of creating that community. It's a community of about 16,000 members. And it's very, very highly active as a community. So there's quite a lot of achievements that came out of it, but more of those are just about dads not giving up on the fight for their kids, and also dads just really stepping up and being comfortable with sometimes being vulnerable as well, and just telling their story through the page.
Nice, man. Nice. No, that's really inspiring. So I think the next event I need to make it through with my little people.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah. So
you can. I'll buy you a drink.
Yeah.
I said I'll buy you a drink.
Oh, no, for sure, not for sure. So, by way of a parting shot, just some words. You've shared a lot, but
Yeah.
just to tie it all together, Wuti, if someone forgot something or missed something, just words of encouragement, advice, and so forth, just a closure.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I would first of all, I just want to say, I think Soni, I think between you and I, and obviously all the other people who are watching, and those that have played in different industries, we can all agree that success in its own form is not, it does not happen by osmosis, right? So it does not happen by osmosis, and by that I mean it's a process of learning, right?
Yeah.
And then it's a process of mastering, and then it's a process of scaling. So that's success. All aspects, and this is a principle that I always work by. I learn, and then I master, and then I scale. So whatever I've learned, I learn it up until I know that I know enough of it. Once I know enough of it, then I look at how I can scale it. And scale it could mean everything. Could mean growing a business. Could mean looking at advancing your career. It could look at learning a better skill to be able to do your arts better if you're in the arts. If you're in corporate, is going back to school or learning from another department because you're ready to scale. You know that you've mastered your industry. Now you're ready to be able to scale. Success is the same across the board. You have to have that knowledge of knowing that it doesn't happen by osmosis. By that means it doesn't happen when everything is standing still. There has to be movement, and movement comes from the process of either you learning, and you mastering it, and you scaling it. So that's just the process of success. It's as simple as that. You don't need, it doesn't need a complete jargon and trying to be way smarter than everybody. It's just simple and straightforward. If you can be able to master these principles, you'll be able to do it over and over again. And by the way, once you've done these three principles, what you do is you repeat. Every time when you do something, you just repeat the same principles. You learn, you master, you scale. You learn, you master, you scale. Every time. You just use those three principles and it will work out for you. And obviously, out of all of those principles, every level of it needs you to obviously advance yourself mentally. Whilst you're learning, you need to have a learning mentality. Whilst you master it, you need to have a mentality of a master because you master. Once you get to a point of scaling, you need to have a mentality of someone who's scaling, which means you have to open up your brain to a little bit of more pressure, right? You have to be willing to take on a lot more pressure. So for me, that's I can then articulate success as that. The reason why it's not by osmosis is because something needs to move. Pieces need to move. You need to be active to be able to achieve that success. And that's for me, I will touch on that from a success point of view. And then from a personal point of view, I would then say learn to accept failure. Because it's gonna happen. We've all failed. Even the people that don't look like they are failing on social media, they've failed. I share my failures all the time, and the reason why I do that is because I never want people to think that I live a perfect life. I fail a lot. I make a lot of mistakes. I lose a lot of money. There's a lot of things that happens in the background. I try to share as much as I can, but obviously, if you followed my social media, you'll realize that I'm actually very private, but also open. I'm able to master the two. Very private in terms of my life, but able to open up in terms of trying to show people what happens in the background in terms of business. So for me, I would say get used to failure. as quick as you can, get used to it so that it doesn't impact you as much as it does to others when it happens, so that you are able to lick your wounds faster and move on. Get used to failure. It's going to happen. You know, I always say to people, what's the worst thing that could happen in life? It's not failure. It's death. You could die. That's the worst thing. Not failure. We can fail all the time. But with failure, you know, failure is an opportunity for you to be able to do it again and probably do it better. So, you know, get used to failure. And then another one would be, and I'll touch on this one mainly from a position of understanding where you are. You know, there's a saying that I think there was a video that Siliboho posted, Dr. Life, about if you are in business, you need to know exactly where you are in business and in which kind of business you're trying to build. And I will always say that I share the same sentiment. It's always good to know what you're building. If you're building a legacy business, operate like a legacy business. Operate like someone who needs to preserve more. That's a legacy business. If you're building a lifestyle business, that's okay. You can pop bottles at Bonga.
Sure.
It's a lifestyle business, right? But you need to know exactly which one you're building. If you're building a business just to sustain your lifestyle, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. But know exactly which one you're building. If you're building a legacy business, you can't be popping up bottles. It's not going to work. Those things cannot mix. You need to be able to know which one you're building. Then it will be easier for you to be able to put yourself in the right blocks. And it will be easy also for you to be able to find the tribe to you to be able to walk this journey with, because you know what you build. You know, the hardest thing is to see business people trying to get into the same clique, whilst the other one wants to leave. The other one is trying to build a legacy. Those things don't connect. So know exactly which one you're trying to build, and that should make things a bit easier for you. And then another thing is serve. Whether you are in corporate, whether you're in business, serve first. The biggest thing about business or about everything, service, it's about serving. Learn to serve first before you can be able to reap the rewards. If you know how to serve, you're never going to go hungry. You need to know how to serve. Learn that from as early as possible. If I give you a job, it's a minimum wage job. Learn to serve. If you serve me well, I will be able to reward you well. If you learn to serve early, you will never starve. You will never struggle. So learn to serve as early as you can.
Powerful. That's a powerful note to end with, Note. Thank you very much for your time, sharing your pearls of wisdom. I know that everyone has benefited from this. I will do a Mario runs also at some point. You know, just the more people see and get kind of information, I think it will go far.
No, thank you so much. You know, just to also touch on again, I just want to say, you know, we should get rid of the notion of wanting to be perfect or wanting to be seen as perfect, or even wanting people to aspire to be perfect. It's not sustainable. We're not perfect. We're never going to be perfect. And I for one don't try to be perfect. You know, and that's the reason why I think the last time I had a chat and I said I don't know how I can't sell a story because you know, what you see is what you get. I don't have a story, but you've just gotten a story out of me. Yeah, so try to be perfect. As you know, your childhood was not perfect, your adulthood will never be perfect, your business will never be perfect. So perfection is a fallacy. We should never strive for that. We should strive for improvement, strive for growth, and thrive for happiness, genuine happiness. Strive for that. If you strive for that, you're never gonna live a miserable life. But striving for perfection is not sustainable. But that's just my opinion, you know. But thank you so much for the opportunity. You know, I really take interviews. But yeah, you convinced me. You didn't have to try too hard. Yeah.
No, thanks.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, and then just to say, I also want to say this to you, man. We appreciate you as Mr. Soni. We appreciate you for the platform in BrownSense. You probably have gotten a couple of flowers now. Receive them, embrace them, enjoy them. You deserve them. You know, you've been really great. There's a lot of guys that can attribute their success to you, and I'm hoping that StayOn Telecom, the initial partnership would also continue further in terms of us getting StayOn to grow to those numbers that we need to be able to start changing the status quo. And I think with BrownSense, we should be able to get that goal. And I appreciate you for this platform. I appreciate your family, your kids, for allowing us to have the time with you to be able to build that platform to where it is today. I appreciate that, and I hope that you never stop, man.
I know, knowing about that, I really appreciate it, you know. I think one of the things that I learned, strange in a very strange way, there's a church I used to attend, and one of the pastors there used to say, for as long as his brain is able, he'll never just do hard. So he would give us his background in terms of school and all of those things, and that he had that attitude. You would see, as long as my faculties is proper, I'm competent. I can read a document and legally sign a contract, those types of things. Life can go upside down or whatever. Where my family doesn't have food on the table, and that got me thinking in terms of that attitude and how far it can take one. Would you, life again be smooth sailing all the time, and actually the time that shows your character is when it's bumpy, it's windy, there's a storm and all sorts of things. Not always smooth ride. Smooth ride, we don't really know what kind of maybe I don't know myself, but once I mean that. So I think when you say that, I think that's the kind of stuff that carries me. Also what when you started this, you understand what's the reason, and one thing I think I'll the top of story. BrownSense was not founded from a brainstorming of what business can I start.
Yeah.
You understand? The money became incidental. You understand? It became incidental. It became a byproduct. But the thing on my mind was, I'm an FDs. How long is this going to happen? What can I do to play a part to bring some change? Changes in not changing. Yeah. But anyway, thanks. But I think we need a lot of these sessions. We need a lot of groups like Black Data and just as men, black men, also giving one another roses, because we also live in a space where we don't really have a place to vent, and where someone can relate to the content. You would see, hey, this is what I'm going through and whatever, as men. But anyway, I can go on and on what we start talking about. Thanks, Dr.
Yeah, we will do that. Thank you. We will need another session in a couple of years.
Yeah, for sure. So thanks. Enjoy your evening.
So much.
Okay, cool.
Cheers,
sharp. Cheers. Well, there it is. Hey guys, thank you very much for joining us. I'm back next week, Thursday. I might have a session on Wednesday. Once we confirm, you will see that, or you may have seen that I posted something about a cannabis training academy called Chiba Cannabis Academy. They're doing some really great work in the cannabis industry in terms of, training people in the full value chain. This is an opportunity that we shouldn't sleep on as Black people. Sizavuka siyithetha abelungu and come back to complain, like we do, most of us, about everything else. So please look out for that. I'm back Thursday, like I said, but just a pin to remind yourself that there might be a Wednesday. The Wednesday most likely will be during the day, not in the evening. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we are working on in the background. But otherwise, thank you for joining us. Enjoy your evening.